You're tuned in to the English Up Podcast.
Brought to you by the Speak English with Us.
Have you ever sat down to start an important task, and then suddenly, your Slack pings or colleague comes over with a quick question?
Yeah, and what should have been a focused hour turns into chasing little tasks for the whole day. I've lost count of those moments.
Exactly. You're ready to dive deep, but those tiny requests keep hijacking your day. And by the end, you wonder, how did I get so much busy but so little done?
This episode's perfect for you if you often feel stuck in that cycle. We're diving into a system that helps take back control.
This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you're welcome to, don't worry, we'll keep it clear and practical.
Here's the big question. How many times do you think you get interrupted by quick requests each day? 10, 20, or even more? Think about that for a second.
Quick question. What's your number? Drop it in your mind now. 2, 10, or maybe 50.
We discovered something powerful. Those tiny interruptions don't just steal minutes. They fragment your focus so badly you barely get back on track.
And that feeling, you know the sinking feeling when you check the clock and realize you've spent hours on distractions? It's frustrating, right?
Today, we'll introduce the request queue system, a simple yet effective way to handle those popping up tasks without losing your rhythm.
We'll also explain why your brain hates these interruptions so much, thanks to something called the Zeigarnik Effect, linked to psychology.
And the best part, we'll share how to triage those requests smartly and set up your day so you decide when to deal with them, no more feeling like you're on someone else's schedule.
Stay until the end for our Word Tour 5 powerful expressions you'll want to add to your English toolkit.
So tell us right now, are you working while listening? Or maybe checking your phone? Wherever you're at, we're here to help you wrestle back your focus.
And later on, we'll give you one tiny trick you can start using tomorrow to stop those mini tasks from hijacking your entire day. But first, let's dig into why this happens. Let me paint the scene. You sit down to write, and then a tiny interruption lands in your lap. A message pops up, then another, and suddenly your brain feels scattered.
And the weird part is, the request itself may be small, but the context switch is huge. 1 minute you're in deep work, the next you're answering, "Can you just check this?"
That phrase, "just check this," sounds harmless, but it often creates a bottleneck in your whole day. One small interruption can pull everything off rhythm.
Exactly. And once you start stacking those requests, you build a backlog before lunch. Not because you're slow, but because each interruption leaves a little mental tab open.
That's where the Zeigarnik Effect comes in, right? The brain remembers unfinished things more strongly than finished ones.
Right. Zeigarnik Effect means your mind keeps tugging at unfinished tasks, like a browser with 20 tabs open. Even if you try to return to your main task, part of you is still holding the loose thread.
So, the interruption isn't just time lost, it lingers. And that makes it harder to get back into flow.
I've definitely seen this happen in real life. Someone asks for a 5-second answer, and 10 minutes later, I'm reading 3 follow-up messages, checking one file, and trying to remember what I was doing before that interruption.
Same. I open one message and then my whole morning turns into a queue of tiny reactions. I look productive, but my real work is just waiting in the background.
That's why the request queue is so useful. Instead of letting every new thing jump the line, you place it in a queue and decide when to deal with it.
So the rule is simple. The request can arrive, but it doesn't get immediate attention. It goes into the queue and you protect your current task.
Let's make it concrete. Imagine you're drafting a report and a coworker says, "Can you confirm this number?" If it can wait, it goes into the queue. If it affects other people right now, it gets triaged differently.
And triage is the key word there. Sorting requests by urgency or importance. Not every request deserves the same response time.
Exactly. One request might be a true bottleneck because someone else is blocked. Another might just be a nice to have, so it can sit in the backlog until your next check-in window.
That distinction matters because people often treat every request like a fire. Then their day becomes one long emergency.
And honestly, that's how you end up answering emails with one eye on dinner and the other eye on the wrong spreadsheet.
Or rereading the same sentence 5 times because your brain has wandered off again.
Here's the shift. You're not saying no to people. You're saying, I'll handle this in the right order. That protects the work and keeps the process moving.
So the queue gives structure. The backlog holds unfinished items, triage decides priority, and bottleneck shows where things slow down.
And interruption is the thing you want to reduce, because every interruption adds friction. It doesn't just steal a minute. It steals momentum.
Can we try a quick example? Say, I get a message from a teammate while I'm writing. Instead of replying instantly, I note it in the queue and keep writing.
Yes, and if it's urgent, you use a fixed window to clear it. If it's not urgent, it waits. That's the core of the system.
So the goal isn't perfect silence, it's controlled access. Tiny requests can exist without running the whole day.
And by the way, there's a phrase for this kind of slowdown. It's called a bottleneck, and we'll break it down more later in our word tour.
First, though, we need to talk about why this feels so emotionally exhausting. Because the real pain isn't just the delay. It's the constant mental reset.
Right. And once you see that pattern, you start noticing how many times your day gets hijacked by things that should have waited.
So, Alex, you've explained the request queue system well. I believe it can really help people regain control of their time. But I'm curious, what do you say to those who think that putting requests in a queue might come off as ignoring their teammates or customers?
That's a good point, Emma, but I'd argue it's not ignoring. It's respecting both your work and theirs by giving each task the attention it deserves. Immediate responses can sound great, but they often lead to mistakes, rushed work, and even more interruptions.
True. However, some might say, but what if that delay causes frustration or slows down the entire team? Isn't there a risk that waiting could create bottlenecks elsewhere?
I get that concern, but that's why triage exists, sorting requests by urgency or importance. The system isn't about ignoring all requests, it's about prioritizing real emergencies and handling less urgent ones later. Without triage, you waste time on low-priority tasks all day.
But hold on, what if people find that triage too rigid or complicated? Teams often work dynamically and pressing issues can change fast. Doesn't this queue method risk becoming outdated by the time someone reaches a request?
That's a fair question, but the system's flexibility is its strength. The queue adapts. You continuously reassess tasks. Also, by having fixed clearing windows, you avoid dropping everything unexpectedly. This reduces stress both ways.
Okay, but say someone really needs quick input to keep their work moving. Waiting for a scheduled window might stall their whole process. Doesn't that contradict the goal of speeding things up?
It might feel that way at first, but think about how often those quick inputs turn into follow-up messages because the first response was rushed or incomplete. By batching those communications, you reduce back and forth, ultimately making the process faster and more reliable.
I see your point. But I worry that the system might cause people to feel disconnected or undervalued. Immediate responses can show someone they're being heard. Isn't that important for team morale?
Absolutely. Communication matters. But the system doesn't block communication. It schedules it thoughtfully. That way, when you do respond, you're fully present. No multitasking, no distractions. That respect often improves morale more than quick but distracted answers.
That makes sense. Still, it's a big mindset shift for many. People are used to instant replies, thinking that means they're productive and helpful. How do you convince teams to trust this slower pace?
The key is data. Studies show teams switching to queue-style requests lower their error rates and cut time lost to interruptions by up to 30%. When people see those numbers, they start trusting the system.
Spot on. And it's crucial that leadership supports this, sets examples, and communicates expectations clearly. Without buy-in from the top, the queue might just end up being ignored.
Exactly. Otherwise, you have people quietly dodging requests, and that makes things worse. Clarity up front about the queue's purpose turns it into a tool, not a trick.
Now, what about the psychological side? How does the queue system tackle the mental fatigue caused by constant interruptions?
Great question. By externalizing the tasks into a queue, you offload your brain from holding all those loose threads. Instead of juggling unfinished tasks in your mind, which triggers that Zeigarnik Effect you mentioned, your mind gets relief knowing there's a place handling those requests.
So externalizing tasks reduces cognitive load and mental strain. I've read that cognitive science calls this externalizing working memory, freeing mental space to focus deeply.
Exactly. And on top of that, setting fixed times to clear the queue limits the chance of ad hoc interruptions, giving your brain longer focused periods.
But Alex, some might argue the queue system isn't one size fits all. What about creative roles where inspiration strikes randomly? A fixed schedule might feel like a barrier.
Absolutely, Emma. The queue system isn't about rigidity. It's about creating guardrails that suit your style. For highly creative or fluid projects, you might build in more flexibility or shorter clearing windows. The core idea is controlling interruptions, not eliminating spontaneity.
So maybe it's more like a traffic light than a stop sign guiding flow without killing momentum.
That's a great way to put it. And just like traffic, sometimes you have to wait briefly to go smoothly later.
Before we move on, can I try a quick role play? I want to see how you'd handle a typical interruption using the queue system.
Go for it.
Wait, before that, let's remember, the goal here is to resist immediate reaction. Put the task in the queue and then respond in a controlled way later.
Got it. Hit me with the scenario.
Okay. I'm working on a project, and you come in saying, "Hey Alex, can you check that file? It's urgent." How do you reply?
I'd say, thanks for flagging it. I'm in the middle of something, but I'll add your request to my queue and get back to it during my next review slot.
Good. What if I push back? But it's really urgent, and if you don't check it now, it'll hold up my work.
Then I'd say, I understand. Let's triage this. Does it block others immediately, or can it safely wait an hour? If blocking, I'll shift my schedule. If not, it stays in the queue.
Perfect. Could you try 2 more polite but natural ways to phrase that?
Sure. 1. I hear you and I want to help. Let me finish my current task, then I'll prioritize your file. 2. Thanks for letting me know. I have a system to keep things smooth, so I'll slot this in at the next review.
Great. Now imagine you try one of those and say it out loud here.
Thanks for letting me know. I have a system to keep things smooth, so I'll slot this in at the next review.
That sounds much clearer than scrambling anyway. It keeps the day calm and predictable.
Exactly. And over time, your team learns to respect those boundaries, reducing last-minute interruptions dramatically.
So to wrap up this part, the request queue isn't about shutting people out or avoiding tasks. It's a commitment to managing interruptions and mental energy better.
Right. Because the goal isn't to work harder, but to work smarter, keeping that backlog manageable and not letting interruptions steal your focus.
I don't know about you, but that sounds like freedom to me.
Freedom with a side of structure, a combo we all need.
So, Alex, we've covered why interruptions drain our focus and how the request queue helps triage tasks smartly.
Right. And we dug into the pros and cons in our debate. Now, it's time to take a closer look at some key words that explain this system perfectly.
Words like queue, backlog, triage, bottleneck, and interruption. These are the building blocks of managing your day better.
Let's break them down naturally and show how you can use them immediately in real conversations.
Let's go back to that moment when your screen keeps lighting up and your focus starts slipping, because the first word we used for that feeling was queue.
Right. A queue is a line, but in work life, it's not always people standing in a literal line. It can be a line of tasks waiting for your attention.
So if I say put that in the queue, I'm really saying don't handle it right now. It waits its turn. And that alone can save your day.
Exactly. And the beauty of a queue is that it stops random things from jumping ahead just because they arrived loudly.
That's the emotional relief here. Not every ping deserves your full brain. The queue gives your mind a place to put the noise.
You could say, I've got 3 things in my queue. That sounds natural, calm, and controlled. Much better than saying, my day is on fire.
Much better. And if the queue gets too long, then we run into the next word, backlog.
A backlog is the pile of unfinished work waiting behind the scenes. It's a bit heavier than a queue because it reminds you that work is still sitting there, not forgotten, just waiting.
So I might say, my backlog is huge this week. That sounds very real for anyone with too many open loops.
And if you say that in a meeting, people immediately understand the pressure. It's a useful word because it names that quiet buildup before everything feels too much.
Okay, and this is where we got clever with requests, right? We didn't treat every message the same. We used triage.
Yes. Triage means sorting requests by urgency or importance. In a busy day, that's a survival skill, not a fancy word.
So instead of answering everything instantly, you ask, does this need me now, later, or not at all? That one question changes the whole rhythm.
You could say, I triage my requests twice a day. That sounds structured and very intentional. Like you're running your time instead of chasing it.
And that brings us to bottleneck. This one is so good because it names the point where everything slows down.
A bottleneck is the part of a process that slows everything down. In our story, the bottleneck wasn't the task itself. It was the constant stopping and restarting.
So if one person has to approve every tiny step, that person becomes the bottleneck. Or if one chat channel keeps interrupting everyone, that channel becomes the bottleneck.
Exactly. And in plain English, you might say, the review step is the bottleneck. Short, sharp, and easy to understand.
Finally, we talked about interruption. This one's easy to feel, because everyone knows what it feels like when you're pulled away mid-thought.
An interruption is something that stops you from continuing what you were doing. Simple meaning, big effect.
You could say, that interruption cost me 10 minutes. Or, I hate unnecessary interruptions when I'm writing. Both sound natural.
Notice how all 5 words fit together. Queue, backlog, triage, bottleneck, interruption. They describe the whole system around your work.
And that's the real win, right? Once you have words for the pattern, you can notice it faster and talk about it more clearly.
Exactly. Your English gets stronger, and your work habits get clearer at the same time. That's a pretty good deal.
Much better than pretending every ping is an emergency. That strategy is a disaster with a polite face.
And if you want a mini practice idea, try this. Say 1 sentence with each word out loud. Keep it simple, keep it real, and keep it connected to your own day.
Queue, backlog, triage, bottleneck, interruption. Those 5 words can help you describe what's happening before it takes over your whole afternoon.
And that's the kind of English that actually sticks, because it comes from a real situation, not a word list on a page.
So there you have it. Tiny requests can quietly hijack an entire day, but they don't have to. The big idea is simple. Put the request in a queue, sort it with triage, and protect your focus from constant interruption.
And remember the deeper reason this works. Your brain hates unfinished loops. Once something gets pulled away, the Zeigarnik Effect keeps tugging at it, which is why a backlog can feel heavier than it looks.
My favorite move is this. Pick 2 clear windows each day to clear your queue. Outside those windows, you don't answer every ping on the spot. You capture it, label it, and keep moving.
I'd add one more thing. If a request blocks other people, handle it first. If it doesn't, let it wait. That tiny triage habit can cut a lot of stress and stop one bottleneck from controlling the whole day.
I used to think I had a motivation problem, but really I had an interruption problem. Once I named it, I felt less guilty and way more able to change it.
Same here. I used to answer everything immediately, and my backlog just kept growing. When I finally separated urgent from non-urgent, my work felt calmer. And honestly, my head felt calmer too.
So here's your tiny challenge. Today, catch one request before it steals your attention and place it in a queue instead. Try that once. Then notice how much easier it is to return to the main task.
And if you want to go further, start using these words in real life. Say, that goes in the queue, or this is a bottleneck, and make the language part of your system.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what's the one kind of interruption that hijacks your day the most?
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and if this episode gave you one useful idea, try it tomorrow. Not someday, tomorrow.
We'll be back with more English you can actually use in real life. The kind that helps you sound clearer, calmer, and more in control.
Until next time, keep your cue small, your focus steady, and your day yours.